Welcome, low ego action heroes. This is Debbie Levitt from DeltaCX.com. We're a full service CX and UX consultancy. If you find yourself with nothing to do, you can look at our website. That'll give you something to do. And today is March 15th, 2022, and this is Office Hours Ask Us Anything with special guests Darren Hood and Dr. Nick Fine. Before I bring everybody in, let's just say a quick thank you to everybody who's been supporting the channel financially, though it is optional. So thanks to everybody who is supporting at what I like to call the mid-level or senior level low ego action hero, though of course thanks to our juniors as well. These are people giving between $3 and $10 a month to the channel, which I gratefully accept, and I like to buy chocolate chips, delicious cheese, and reinvest in cheesy videos. That's how it works. Hello Manash, welcome. You are the first one to comment. Not that it's a contest. So we already have a whole bunch of questions from all y'all. Nick and I will be here the full 2 hours. Darren, unfortunately, can only be here for 1 hour. And this is also Darren's last show with us for a little while as he focuses on his exciting new job. So let's bring everybody in and say a hello to them. Boom. Okay, welcome everybody. Let's say hi. Nick, let's start with you. Who the heck are you?
You all know me. I'm the noisy one. I'm Dr. Nick. I'm a, oh God, I was born before digital. I'm an old guy who's a full stack UXer. I am a psychologically driven user researcher, and that's about it. I can just talk about that stuff all day. Darren Hood, over to you, sir.
Who are you?
First gen UXer, experience designer, college professor, author, podcaster, rebel rouser, only for the purpose of taking a stand for the truth. Mind you, I wish the absolute best for everybody and will do what I can to help them get there.
That was beautiful. Wow. Did you have that written down?
Nah, I just give it at certain points in time. Let me pull this one out today.
I'm not looking. I'm copying and pasting a question. I missed it if it was a sight gag.
No, it wasn't. It was simple. No props.
No props. Okay, too bad. All right, so I'm gonna jump right in. Remember, everybody, you can follow these people on LinkedIn and just put their names into Google and find other ways to stalk them as well. So, and don't forget to subscribe here as well and tell people you know that we have fun shows that are helping humans. Okay, let's take a look at our first question. And most of these came in anonymously. This one says, what would be your response if you are expected to just copy the UX from the competition and carry on, besides leaving the job? And let me remind people quickly that if you'd like to ask a question, we already have a list, but you can put it in the YouTube chat or the LinkedIn chat, or you can send it anonymously at deltacx.link/ask. It's at the top of the screen. Nick, Darren, what do you do when everyone tells you just copy the competition? Silence.
What do I do? I'll tell you what I do, and then there's what you should do and what I do.
Right,
Those
okay.
are different things.
Do not follow his advice.
I mean, I hope Darren or anybody would say something pretty similar to what I'm about to say. I can't swear and I won't swear, but do the right thing. Do the right thing anyway. Copying from the competition is always a race to the bottom. I know I'm not going to go through all the reasons why it's a bad idea. I think you know it. You know, it's not valid until their research isn't your research. Did they do any research? Is they the same audience? All of that garbage stuff, right? All very relevant, very important. I would seriously go ahead and do too. I would do what they want because it's your boss, and if you don't, you end up losing your job, or it causes political shenanigans. But I would have Plan B or Route B, or the other option, which is the user-informed, the user-centric version, or just something that's really innovative that you're leveraging, user needs that you already know about and trying it out in a different way. That's real UX, in my humble opinion, and that's what makes me different. It's not a great big secret, is designing with user needs produces a better outcome. Darren.
Yeah, a couple things come to mind for me. Number one, this reminds me of the under the radar skill that UXers need to understand the methodology, the timing of pushing back. that there is a time to push back. And actually, a lot of our stakeholders expect us to push back. And you can do it in a constructive and a professional way to let them know, I don't think we should do this. Here are the 5 or 6 reasons why. Make sure that you let them know, and then provide some potential alternatives that you can do instead of copying taking the copy from off the other site, not to mention the potential legal ramifications and consequences associated with doing such. I was reminded of something I saw Jacob Nielsen talk that he delivered recently, and he was talking about how when you use what's on another site, you might be copying what somebody did on another site, but you don't know the design problem or the needs they were trying to meet, on the line of what Dr. Nick just said. So if you copy that, you can't just copy because you don't know what they were designing for. You don't know what they were addressing. You don't know what needs they were meeting. And so because of that, just because the shoe fit on that foot doesn't mean it's going to fit on yours, even if it was legal, because it really is illegal, technically. As soon as somebody publishes something, there is an automatic copyright that is generated. So if you copy that, you're going to be legally responsible, and they're going to come back at you. So you have an ethical responsibility to push back and then go from there. That's my take.
Yeah, don't forget, by the way.
Yes.
Sorry, one last thing, Debbie. I'm really sorry. Don't forget, they're copying you back. And that's where it gets completely insane. You're both copying each other's innovation. It's really horrific. Don't do it. Sorry, Debbie.
No, It's fine. I was just going to say, I tend to take the Dr. Nick approach in that. So the first time I had someone ask me to copy the competition, I was working at Sony. And I said, oh, yeah, really? You want me to just rip off Apple? I can see the TechCrunch headlines now. Sony, so unimaginative that they just copied Apple. I said, do you want that? Do you want that headline? And then one of the next times I was asked to literally just completely steal from the competition, it was when I worked at Macy's. And I said, y'all know we're publicly traded and we're like a Fortune 160, right? Do you think like no one's going to notice and no one's going to write about this and it's not going to affect the stock price? Do you really think you want the headline? So this is a tactic I've used with companies. Like, do you really want to see the Wall Street Journal headline, Macy's rips off Kohl's? You know, do we want that? Are you sure? You know, if so, sign here. And so, sometimes, usually that's worked, but obviously I found myself saying that monthly. And so eventually it was, the sky is falling. So yeah, that's what I try to do, but I certainly agree with the gentleman on the other things that they've said. So that's usually what I'm saying, plus the other things. Next question, it says, and I think we just got an anonymous one that I will copy and paste shortly. Thank you to the asker. I just transitioned to UX and I got a job as a UX designer. I'm the only UX person in the company. It's quite overwhelming a few times and intimidating sometimes. What should be my approach if I don't have anybody guiding me to, I'm not too sure what the word have there, but let's say guiding me around UX. So newbie, only UX person in the company, newbie. First, can I just say before you both answer, a reminder to all of the UX newbies who can't wait to get their first job. This is what your world could look like if you don't take the right job. Your job is going to look like you've come into a company. They believe that you can do UX. They believe that you don't need training or support or mentoring, and you are just going to do the entire company's work, and you are personally responsible for all of it. So when you are interviewing, you better make triple dog sure that if you expect mentoring, coaching, or support, that you ask who else in UX works here and hello, I'm a junior, who is going to be supporting me. So I'm not blaming the person who wrote this. I know people are so excited to get their first job that they're saying yes to anything, but then this is the situation you end up in where you are basically guessing at UX. Darren, want to take this one first? What do we recommend to this person?
Yep, and believe it or not, I'm going to be short-winded.
Whoa.
2 things I'm going to recommend. One, minor miracle.
Great timing.
the Leah Bewley, the book called that Leah Bewley wrote called The UX Team of One will be a fantastic resource for you to tap into. Of course, it's not going to give you all your answers in a week, but it's going to give you a point of reference that you can tap into. The second thing is I'm going to recommend my UX strategy masterclass that you can find on YouTube. I delivered that talk for South Africa. And one of the things that's different than your higher profile UX strategy people say and do is that I talk about approaching your UX practice from an entrepreneurial perspective, that you manage it like an internal business. It helps you to think more broadly. It helps ensure that you have a business mindset and not just thinking about the churning out of deliverables, but the operation, UX operation, which is something a lot of people miss. So you can actually, with that mindset, it will help to drive you to a greater point of UX maturity, even at a company just like that, as at least give you better potential. So that's my short-winded answer.
And hi to Denise, who says, hi, the Magnificent Three. Nick, what is your thoughts on this?
I've been exactly where you were when I came out with, I defended my PhD in 2009. And about 8 months later, I was working for a large insurer in the UK. I was the only person in the company. I didn't know anything about UX. It was literally my first UX job. And I hadn't transitioned from anything. I transitioned from academia and stuff, right? So I had no prior experience. It is completely overwhelming, and it's overwhelming most of the time. And this was in a world that was when the world was much more UX immature in 2009. So there's a lot more. But the point being is you're still going to be the contact person. You're still going to be the person that everybody comes to. Firstly, they're not going to look at your level and go, oh, you're a junior, you're a senior, you're a mid. They're just going to, you're the UX person now,
Yep.
and they're coming to you. And they're going to expect
Yep.
you to be the oracle, right? You're meant to know everything now, okay? Now, my comeback that you've heard me say on this show, at conference, everywhere, it's probably my catchphrase, if you could have one. It was invented at Liverpool Victoria at the insurance company in 2009. Because what I started to say, and I have never stopped saying, is I don't have all the answers, but I do have the methods to get the answers. Let's sit there for a minute, right? Because that's heavy. But it's right. It's bang on, right? And
Yeah.
that's just what a scientist would say. You know, I don't have the answers, but I'm an investigator. I'm a scientist. I'm going to run the experiments. I'm going to find shit out. So that's basically where it's at. So you tell them, and the maturity of the company is obviously low or on the floor. So by getting the idea into people's minds that it isn't about what I think, it's a bottom up kind of a thing. I'm going to find out the needs of our users, of the audience, and then I'm going to come up with something. That's the way to start the seed of UX growing in an organization, so that culturally it develops out better, and it'll take a lot of pressure off of you to know everything. And it will hopefully get you the resources to go and recruit people, observe them doing stuff. You know what I mean? Doing the UX.
And what I would add to that is what I always say in these situations, which is if you don't have someone in the company who can be a mentor or coach, you need to find someone outside the company who can be a mentor or coach. You need to find somebody who is going to sign an NDA with you and talk to you about what's going on there and help you with presentations and dealing with conflict and speaking to stakeholders, help you with the things Nick was just talking about how to argue for the things that you need and stand up for the things you need and not just say yes to everything. And someone who can check your work as you go. You know, are you the designer? Are you also doing research? Do you have to plan research, recruit it, do it, analyze it? If you're doing the designs, based on what research? If you're not doing the research, where'd you get the research? How are you doing the designs? How's your information architecture? How's your interaction design and your best practices and mobile and colors and whatever? So I think you just have to find somebody from outside. Certainly I coach, but I charge for that time. So, you know, I may or may not be in your budget, but I would find somebody who can see you regularly and follow along with your project and be the coach that the job is not going to give you. Of course, you can find all the information about what I'm up to at deltacx.com/links. That's the show, the YouTube show events. It's the how to get my coaching, like everything you could imagine is at deltacx.com/links. That should answer the key questions, but I think you need to find that person who's going to guide you because the job's not going to give it to you.
Deb,
Go
let
ahead,
me ask
Nick.
one quick thing. This is actually an amazing opportunity. And Deb, for those people that land places like this that is not ideal, it happens. And when you're desperate to get into the UX job and you can get into a job, but you're literally the only UX thing for miles, it makes it's the reality. Darren, Debbie, and I all come from the old world of research and design. We're the all-in-one, but basically, what you're about to be is an all-in-one because it's kind of like a time travel. You've gone back in time to where I was in 2009. It's just that company is stuck in
Yep.
2009, whilst the world is 2022. Sorry, I'm out of date. Right. The point being is, learn the research skills. Right. The more you do, you're going to learn. You will learn the hard way. It's less. It's if you have a mentor or some way to guide you, and all the resources that are online today on the Delta CX channel are there to help you. Watch all of Debbie's videos, run some pilots with some friends, whatever you need to do, and just get into it. You cannot, this is why the boot camps and stuff don't work. By doing stuff, you learn, and you'll make mistakes and you'll learn and you'll get better fast. You'll be able to become a competent researcher very quickly, and you'll understand what you need to do. Being research and design and being able to do that proper user-centric design output will do yourself the power of good for the future and the culture for your organization. You may end up being head of UX in a few years' time with a team of 10 beneath you. So think of both sides is my point. Full stack.
Okay. Let's take a look at
Awesome.
our next question. I'm planning to start a side project to boost my portfolio, and I'm very passionate about mental health education. However, there are already so many resources and apps out there. I'm not sure if it is wise for me to create yet another mental health related app or website. Am I overthinking this? When doing side projects or any other projects, is it advised to think about whether it adds value to other people, or do I just go for the sake of having a side project in my portfolio?
I'll be quick.
Okay.
Solve a real problem, a real pain point, a real need. If that is a mental health thing, fine, go for it. But I think that's for me, if I'm looking at your portfolio and you want to do this kind of thing to boost your portfolio, make it mean something rather than just a checkbox. Here's another cool thing, because that's the UX thinking, is problem solving and identifying needs and pains and then solutioning it. So that was what I would want to see, because that's really great UX thinking. Darren.
Yep. I'm going to piggyback, say amen to everything that Dr. Nick just said. And I'm going to piggyback and just say value, value, value. If you're doing it, it literally says, I'm planning to start a side project to boost my portfolio. And I'm very passionate about mental health. Let's flip that. If you're passionate about mental health, then do it. It doesn't matter. There's going to be another 500 people after you that do something similar. Just go and do it. You just bring a flavor. You're going to reach somebody that a lot of those other people will never reach. And if it happens to be something that is good to put in your portfolio, then it's something you can produce and put in your portfolio. But do not put the cart before the horse. If you have a passion for it, go for it. But don't just do that just to put something in your portfolio. You will have opportunities to put things in your portfolio over time, but don't change the priority.
Yeah, and I'm going to be a little bit of a stormy rain cloud on this one. And I'm going to say, while I agree with both of the guys, one thing I do want to remind people, and I've had this conversation with some of the people that I mentor and coach, and that is, be careful of trying to do a passion project or side project or portfolio project around mental health if you are not a mental health professional. There's a lot to consider when you are planning that research, when you are deciding what questions to ask them, when you are considering the privacy of their information, when you are considering how to anonymize these people. They might not feel comfortable with the questions you're asking, and you might not be asking appropriate questions. So again, mentor and coach are irreplaceable here, but sometimes I do steer people away from projects that are around very sensitive topics. That's usually mental health or sometimes physical health, because you could end up in a very sensitive area, and you could end up, if you don't do really great research the right way, and you end up with an app that seems surface or stereotypical, like, oh, I learned that sometimes people are depressed, so I made a game where if you click the fish, you'll be happier to see the fish moving, and I'll be like, fuck this bullshit. Like, that's not what helps mental health, you know? And so I worry sometimes because I see dozens and hundreds of portfolios that sometimes people take a rather serious topic and come up with a very surface, not deeply thought out solution to it. So while I know people are tired of the bootcamp projects of how to adopt a puppy and how to make an app for hungry students. Darren, your video froze. I don't know why. I know we're tired of some of the same bootcamp projects over and over. Find something you are passionate about and interested in, but I do tend to warn people against mental or physical health stuff. You might be unqualified to talk about that. If you're qualified, great. Darren, your video's frozen. You might have to leave and come back because you're frozen in a funny shape. Nick, are you seeing me frozen?
Can you hear me?
We do hear you.
Okay, I'm trying to free up some RAM. I think I usually free up my RAM before I come on, and I did not do that, and I think that's why. So hopefully my video will come back momentarily.
Mystery Science Theater 3000 says, juicy RAM chips. Okay. I love Mystery Science Theater 3000. Okay, can I move to the next question while Darren frees up RAM?
Yes.
Okay. I hope we haven't totally lost him now. Okay, so there is somebody who sends in questions to the show, and I can't prove this, but I'm under the impression that they're a consultant and they send me their hard questions.
Oh, I love it.
That's know.
Cheating.
I know. I hope their clients don't ever stumble on my show. They're going to be like, shit. Okay, so this is, how would you explain Safe Agile in plain English and how teams can benefit from it?
That's not for me. I'm sorry, sir. I'm a UXer. Debbie, is this more in your wheelhouse?
It is. But I would still say that this is not the best question for me. Welcome back, Darren. You look lovely. Can we hear you?
I hope so.
Oh, good. Yes. Okay, good. Yeah. Yes. Okay. So this question was, how can you explain Safe Agile in plain English and how teams can benefit from it? And I was going to take that one since it's a little more in my wheelhouse. But do you have an opinion on Safe, Darren?
Nope. I'd stay safe and avoid it, but that's about it.
You are not alone. So basically, so Safe is considered one of the worst and most controversial flavors of Agile. People tend to adopt it because they see the letter S is for scaled, and they think that this is the type of Agile we need to use if we have a larger organization and we have to scale things. But obviously, it's not that other flavors of Agile don't scale. It's just that these people put it in their name. Safe Agile is definitely the worst type of Agile when it comes to UX. They are definitely, if you thought Agile in general didn't understand UX and didn't include us in processes and tried to drive a steamroller over us, Safe is worse. So there was recently a survey run with something like 500 people, and they asked like an NPS type of survey. Like, would you recommend that other teams and companies use Safe Agile? And I think the NPS score was like a -54. Which, those of you who don't know NPS, it goes from -100 to +100. So that is a very failing score. Safe is highly controversial. And another problem with Safe is that it is very inflexible, which is pretty funny for something called Agile. Hi, Gemma. Agile is supposed to be about learning what's best for our teams and our organization and continuous improvement and do a retro and find a way to make ourselves better. And Safe says, do Safe by the book, do Safe the way we trained you to do it, and do not adjust it. And in fact, that's also one a complaint that I hear from some people in UX about Safe. So I cannot explain Safe in plain English because it is absolute freaking garbage. And their stuff on UX is awful. You can tell that the pages on their website about UX were written by people that Googled UX and then tried to write something that sounded intelligent. And you can tell they genuinely don't get it. And you look at the bottom and it's like written by 3 Agile coaches. And I'm like, right. So, So there's that. So how can teams benefit from it? I think they can't. I think SAFe is the wrong type of agile to bring into an organization. So I don't recommend it. Thanks to your client for asking. We have two other questions.
You're on fire today, Dev.
we have two other questions from the same person. So I'm telling you, I think this person is bringing us the questions from their consulting clients. A few years ago, there was a lot going on about the Spotify model. What are your thoughts on this? Have you used it? Does it harm or benefit teams?
No.
I've never heard of it.
Oh my God, this is like all the questions we've had today, literally. And this is no disrespect to anybody asking the questions, okay? But it's on this side of the screen kind of thing. This is like some of the most cliched questions in the world. And these are great. I'm going to lead with this one then, because the Spotify model, it never really actually existed, okay? It was this postulate. It was an idea, a paper that somebody wrote about cross-functional teams at Spotify, squads, and that sort of stuff that you've probably heard of. I don't truly understand it, and I haven't spent the time to read it. But the point being is it appeared so sexy to this informational, hungry, clueless world that literally every single manager out there has gone, yeah, let's adopt the Spotify model. We need to de-silo, and this is the way to do it. Have cross-functional teams by model. I think last year or the year before, somebody from Spotify said, guys, you all need to stop this because we don't even do the Spotify model, and we're Spotify. Right? I mean, that's how I understand this story to run. So I was at a very major global pharmaceutical company at the beginning of the pandemic 2 years ago, when this exact thing played out with some very expensive consultants and management consultants. It's an absolute red herring as far as I'm concerned. I hope is that you nodding, Dev, because yeah, good, thank God, because I just hope I wasn't way off reservation on this one. It doesn't mean anything. It's got a life of its own, and it never meant anything in the first place. So just let it go. Is that it?
Can't hold it back anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. Darren, anything to add?
Never heard of it.
Okay. So the only thing I can add to that is, as far as I can tell, Spotify model was some way that they were going to organize engineering. We weren't going to call it Scrum teams. We're going to call it squads. We weren't going to call it Scrum of Scrums. We were going to call it guilds or villages or something. It's like, wait a minute, Agile already has this, Scrum already has this. It just has this is like it's like object-oriented UX. No, that's information architecture. So yeah, I think they just, thank you. I think I've got one too. They've so in reality, I'm gonna run
pay-per-view, people.
I know.
Sorry.
I'm going to run this graphic because we don't talk about the Spotify. Oh, my graphic isn't going off. Here it goes. We don't talk about the Spotify model anymore. It's old. It's not a thing. So
I got a quick question for you. Have you done something to expose the foolishness associated with object-oriented UX? It's just information architecture rebranded.
Yeah, I haven't, and I need to talk to you privately about that as to why.
Okay.
If you're interested in this stuff.
But yes, I'm not for object-oriented UX.
Yeah.
Just Google another time, and it's not very sexy, component-based usability testing, CBUT. My PhD supervisor, it was all his thing.
CBUT.
Yeah.
That's not good.
I'm not going to
That's not good.
But have a look at it. There's some interesting ideas in there. Let's just say that.
All right. And hello to Too Long Couldn't Read. And thank you for your kind patronage. Okay, so I think that's it for the consultants' questions. Back to the other people's questions. This says, I keep hearing people talk about democratizing UX research, but I don't really know what it meant. Does it mean we involve everyone on the team to do research? If so, what role does the UX researcher play on teams like this? I know it hurts. Yeah, it's depressing.
I'm going to jump in on this one first, and I'll let Dr. Nick load up his bullets while I get ready to attack this. To me, democratized UX is like everything else. You say it one time and you talk in a room with 50 people and it means 10 different things. In general, it has to do, I've seen where it has to do with other people getting involved in the research, even sending out, training people in some cases, training people that are not researchers to do some of the more not the deep types of things that people like a Dr. Nick might do, but a lot of people I've heard will say that there are certain things, certain research initiatives that don't need a full-fledged UX researcher to get involved with to do it. A lot of the low-hanging research fruit, light things, and it gets them into the fray, gets them active, has them go out and do research and things like that. It's up in general. That's on average what I see people talking about. It is, will you democratize your automobile repair? Will you democratize getting your teeth fixed if you have a problem with your dental work?
Darren, we don't even have to go that far. There is no other department at our company that is democratized.
Nothing.
Product is not inviting us to workshops. Product is not inviting us to do their work with them. Engineering doesn't invite me to write code. Marketing is not asking me to make email marketing campaigns. There is nothing else at our company that is democratized.
That's it. Nobody but UX is being democratized. Nobody tries to take our work. Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
Denise.
thanks, Denise.
Nobody is trying to, we're the only people in the room. If you have a meeting and there are 10 disciplines present at the meeting, forget the number of people, 10 disciplines, we are the only people that folks want to take our work and do it, or take our work and democratize. Or did you have a developer come in there with some design he did in Microsoft Paint? This literally happened to me. Microsoft Paint last night, to show everybody we're the only people. Nobody's coming in and talking about what they want to do with the project management. Nobody's coming in and talking about what they want to do with anything. It's always about UX, and it's dangerous in general. It is dangerous, and that's the bottom line. So I said all that to say that. Thanks, Debbie.
Yeah, and I just want to say I break democratization into 4,000 pieces on episode 115. So just go to YouTube, write Delta CX 115. Open up the description because I have chaptering. You can jump straight to the part of the video that's about what is democratization and why is it bad and wrong. Nick, something to add?
And that was brilliant, both of you. The only thing I want to add is it's a really bad misinterpretation of something that was well intended. Okay, democratizing UX research. What they really should say, the real translation of that is socializing user-based insight, right? Socializing, like as in sharing around the stuff that your user researcher has generated. Because that's how you transform businesses, and that's how you produce great products and services that make you lots of money. It isn't about, okay, here's the classic example. GDS, the government digital service in the UK, has a very classic poster, and you can Google it. It says, research is a team sport. And what they mean to say is the intention behind that, from my understanding of it, which I agree with, is get everybody involved in research, i.e. observing the outputs, observing the activity, not facilitating it, okay? Watching the show reels, reading the reports, seeing all this stuff. That's what research is. The voice of the user, the behavior of the user is in everybody's interest, is what we're saying here, okay?
Yep.
And then who does it? That everything Darren and Debbie have just said.
Yes. So democratizing at first for some people meant let's make sure research isn't siloed. Let's make sure it's being shared. Let's make sure like the original version of democracy, let's make sure everyone has access to it. But then someone decided democracy meant everyone does it, and that everyone's say is equal in it. You know, that's a different definition of democracy, but it is a definition of democracy. So there's one version of democratizing UX, and we've had Michelle Ronson on the show who says, yes, research should be democratized. And I said, now explain what you mean by that. And she gave Dr. Nick's explanation. Oh, we need to collaborate with people when we're planning. We need to invite them to the session so they can observe. We need to make sure they see the insights and the opportunities and the things. Okay, great. But some people are taking democratized to mean everyone can do research. We're all equal in research. And so that's where this falls apart. There's in my YouTube, in episode 115, I think I talk about a woman who worked at very famous companies where they tried to democratize research, and she wrote a Medium article about undemocratizing research because it was such a failure.
Nice.
And I think she was at Uber or some well-known company. Nick.
It's because of the word research, obviously, right? When you're talking about research, research can be the research output and research can be the research activity.
Right.
And what we mean is democratize the output. The activity is the exclusive specialists.
Yes. All right. Let's jump to the next question so that we're moving right along.
Sorry, I got to jump in one very final thing. I can't say what, but a very recent project of mine, the delivery lead, did the user research. I've watched the videos. It's like the worst kind of market research. It's skewed, biased, awful, just terrible. Didn't learn anything. Very bad. No needs, no pains, no nothing. The project is suffering badly as a result of that today. Don't let it happen.
And I will say that someone told me today, they couldn't show it to me because of confidentiality, but someone told me today that on an earlier project, they made a customer journey map of what it looks like when product managers do research and when product managers do bad research. And I said, I want that as a poster. And they said, I'm sorry, I can't show it to you because it was confidential. But I'm like, oh, I need to see that. So I'm still going to try to figure out a way to see that. Okay, next question. What can possibly go wrong when two designers work on the same project together? Interesting phrasing of the question. Obviously, sometimes two designers work together and it's a beautiful thing. And sometimes two designers work together and it's not a beautiful thing. Nick, Darren, who wants to talk about the pros and cons of two designers working together?
You know what? I can do a quick in and out. I think it's about recognizing your strength versus their strength and weakness, and trying to do a proper partnership, team up. Like if that's how it's worked well with me before when I've worked with other designers. Where it's worked badly is where we have different philosophies. So there was one particular argument I had with a creative director who wanted my Axure prototype to be computational to a ridiculous level. And I was trying to argue that that's not the point of this. And anyway, you can understand what happens at that point. I was a UX designer. He was the creative director. You have different philosophies. That's when problems have arisen for me. Darren.
Yeah, the first thing that comes to mind is what can possibly go wrong? Everything.
Right.
This is another one of those questions that makes me think about how a lot of things that we talk about and things we address in UX get oversimplified, because a lot of times people are trying to get to point B without understanding what's in between point A and point B. They just want to get to point B so fast that they don't bother to get into the weeds, which is a contradictory approach when you think about our discipline as a whole. We need to stop and smell the flowers. We need to understand what's going on. It's difficult to answer this question in my mind because you could change out the two designers 5,000 times and identify such a plethora of problems that you can never really pinpoint this at all. I would reframe it. How can we avoid problems and help multiple designers on a project work more efficiently? So that's where EQ comes in. That's when we talk about project charters. That's when we talk about making sure that everybody understands what their responsibilities are and make sure that people come together and you're constantly making it a point to align with each other. Hey, how are things going with you? How are things going with you? What's working, what's not? Things of that nature. And going over the work, collaborating, getting feedback from one another and driving everything forward. I think that's a better way. I'm going to reframe it that way because there's way too many things that you can identify that can go wrong between two designers. So, I mean, we be talking about this for this. You could talk about this for a month or two. It's that broad.
And you have different kinds of designers and all of that shenanigans into this as well.
Yep, my point exactly. The veils are too broad. So we can't there be a temptation to oversimplify it. And so I'm just trying to make sure don't oversimplify it because it can really be complex. I could sit and talk to you and give you scenarios, almost make your head explode about the things that can be different between two designers that can cause issues. So instead, rework it. When you're on a project with multiple designers, come up with strategies to make things work so things will be optimal. You could have two great designs still have problems. It's possible. There doesn't have to be an individual for there to be problems. It's just a simple lack of understanding of who's responsible for what. And next thing you know, you're having meetings about meetings. So.
And I'm going to jump to the next.
Oh, sorry.
What?
Go on, Karen.
And also,
I was just going to say, pick your fights. You know, in collaborating with anyone, is it worth fight? Is it worth the fight? A lot of times it isn't. It's just like, just let it go.
Can't hold it back anymore.
No.
Let it go. Let it go. Yeah, because Nick has kids.
Oh, we got.
Okay, I'm moving on. So this question was, what do you think about this conference, which is UX and Business, from business2buttons.com? I just checked the agenda, and there's multiple talks by Jared Spool, so that's a no from me.
Where's the red
Don't
flag?
waste your money. Yep, I'm going to go with no on that. Are either of you familiar with this conference?
No.
I am not familiar with the conference, but I'll jump on since I only have a little bit of time left.
We've only got Darren another 10 minutes.
I will make this statement, is that I'm becoming anti-conference. I say that with an asterisk. If I'm going to participate in a conference, I want to know who's there. I want to know what the topics are. I want to know what my potential takeaways from that conference are going to be. I'm going to look at the LinkedIn profiles of the speakers before I opt into a conference, because conference organizers are off the rocker. They have fallen off the horse. It's about driving profit for a lot of conferences. It's about tourism for a lot of conferences. The practicality that used to be a guaranteed thing with conferences doesn't exist anymore. You have to vet out conferences to see who's doing what before you decide to get involved in a conference. And if I see Jared Spool, I'm going the other way. Because for him, a lot of things is about driving more money later. It's about self-sustenance, self-relevance, and things of that nature. So if I see Jared Spool, I'm done. I spoke at a conference. I saw somebody else there that I would have avoided had I been attending that conference. And I already said I was going to speak before I saw that person over there. We're going to be on the same agenda. Let's see how this works, because we're just going to contradict each other about certain things. And that person is trying to become a superstar. I'm just trying to help people. I don't care about anything. I don't care about my name. I don't care about any of that stuff. But that's what conferences have become. Matter of fact, and I'll throw this in there real quick. When you apply to speak at conferences, I know Debbie has a lot of thoughts about this. I've heard her talk about it before. Some people, they want you to pay. So you don't speak unless you pay. That's wrong. No. Then you have the thing where if you have a practical talk that you want to deliver at a conference, you're not going to get selected. And all the topics are all sensationalism and goofy stuff. Like the OOUX had a conference where all they were doing was trying to promote OOUX. So everybody who was on the agenda, I remember that. They're just trying to promote. It was not even about what conferences are about. Make us relevant. And they're a bunch of trolls too. I've been trolled by them. They did everything but pretty much show up at my doorstep.
Yeah, I saw some of that.
And you're trolling? Oh my God, just trolls. So conferences are not what they used to be. And
now seems like a good time to mention two things. Number one, tomorrow's entire show is about Jared Spool. So if you would like to drop by tomorrow's show at 6:30 p.m. Italy time, the entire show will be about Jared Spool, and because he is the real gatekeeper, and I'm going to tell you why I think he is the real gatekeeper. And number two, my original idea for this channel was, what if you could go to a great UX conference every day for free? That was my original idea for this channel. And because I didn't like how much
Ray.
conferences cost. Hi, Ray. I didn't like what conferences
Ray.
cost. It's a reunion. I didn't like a lot of who was at them and what was going on, and I didn't like that they weren't accessible to a lot of people. And so I decided, what if I could? That's why the shows are an hour long. I'm imagining that you are at a conference and you are hearing different talks and people and interviews and panel discussions and whatever. So that is the overarching UX strategy behind this channel. So, okay, so we've gotten a question coming in anonymously, which I'll add to the bottom of the list. And Darren, you have a few more minutes. Yeah, Nick, go ahead.
Oh, I'll go real quick because I don't want to take up the last of Darren's few moments. I just, whilst Darren was talking, went through the business to buttons page. I suggest you do it just because, number one, the design is an absolute shocker for a UX conference or something like that. That design blew my mind. But you land on so much prose. It's insane. But then scrolling down, the only person I rate on that list is Andy Budd. Andy Budd is old school UX. I learned stuff from Andy. Andy's company, they used to work for Clear Left, is legendary. All of its alumni are legendary. Everybody else I don't know, they all look like they've been paid a lot of money to come talk at a conference that doesn't focal point. It's just hear from random digital people across the board. That's not going to help. Yeah, that literally broke my head.
Oh my God.
That's what I'm saying. How's that okay? Why did anyone think that that's really bad?
That violates the ethics of UX in general.
Dude, it burns my soul.
Oh my God.
They have 9 speakers and Jared Spool is 2 of them.
and because so many people in the UX world are given to what can we call it? UX celebritism. They hear certain names and they automatically buy in. And
Jared is one of those names.
Yeah, and as soon as they hear Jared Spool, ooh, Jared Spool. No, Jared Spool, that's sending me in the other direction. Yeah, to erase it, brutalism. I mean, that's terrible. That website you just showed is 2 steps off of useit.com. You remember that? Jacob Nielsen's old site years ago that was purposely like ugly. He put great info, but he purposely provided no aesthetic appeal whatsoever on that site. And this was 2 steps off of it with almost the equivalent of what looked like some animated GIFs. Man, it's terrible. Well, you throw a few more on there and you're looking at Ling's cars, for God's sake.
We just did that one. Yeah. All right.
If you're promoting a conference and you want to sell conference tickets, that is not the way to do it.
Not to a UX conference. No. I mean, we're supposed to have higher standards. I mean, yes. I see all I mostly apply to engineering and agile conferences, and they generally have some pretty bad websites. Okay, you're the engineering and agile conference. I get it. You didn't ask a UX person to be involved in this at freaking all. But this is a design and UX conference, and you plastered Spool all over it. And I agree with Nick. Obviously, I deeply dislike Spool for so many reasons. But again, tomorrow we'll be talking about that. Darren, I think we have you a few more minutes. Let's try one more question.
10 minutes.
And then we're gonna have to say a long goodbye to you. So what questions should be asked in interviews to understand if the work and team culture are healthy?
Dynamite.
Who wants to jump on that first?
Dynamite.
On time.
Nobody. Well, first of all, episode 129. We have episode 129, which covered this completely. So just go to YouTube, write Delta CX 129. Julia DeBari came with a PowerPoint slide deck and talked about some of the questions we can ask during interviews to try to understand what the environment is like. Obviously, if you're a junior, you're trying to learn if you're going to get mentoring and coaching and support and work reviews and things like that, or if you're going to be thrown into the ocean on your own project and wished good luck. You also want to check how do they approach research? Who's doing the research? How do they do the research? Do we wait? Do designers and engineers wait for the research? So these are all things that we went through in episode 129. So I would say look that one up. Anything y'all want to add? Darren?
Yeah. I ask about UX maturity levels And there's different ways you can ask it. I ask about one thing this is not about a question. I look at who's going to be in the interview, and I go and look up everybody's profile on LinkedIn. And then I will, after looking at those profiles, I will actually formulate questions based on the things that I see that will help me to understand what the culture is like. I ask about leadership support. I ask what the relationship is like between the UX team and people at various stages of leadership in that organization. And then I've mentioned this before, and I remember somebody sort of freaked out when I said it, but I'll say it again. I will ask somebody, tell me why I would not want to work for you. And the reason why I asked that question, somebody said once, Darren, I can't ask that question. Well, then you just talked yourself out of doing it. You can just as easily as it just came out of my mouth. And I'm not necessarily looking for the answer as much as I'm looking for the demeanor in the answer of the question, because I'm trying to see how honest they are. And I love how even at the company I just went to, they answered tough questions before I asked them. They volunteered things that I would have asked if I was asking the tough questions. They were so honest and so transparent that I was sold. You're willing to tell me what the challenges are. You're willing to tell me how you've been trying to approach them. You're willing to tell me what you're happy about and what you're not happy about in the current operation. You're telling me some things about how the team is structured. I look at how the demeanor that people have. I look at how easily they communicate. I went to an interview somewhere else. The person came in the interview and she said, first thing she said, that's the first thing. Then she says, I'm not ready for this interview at all. That's the second thing. And the third thing is said, I am just not prepared. I don't know what to do. I don't even know why I'm here. That tells me a lot. That I interviewed with one company once, and I will tell you, it was Optum. I'm gonna throw a name out there this time. And somebody was angry that their work was being moved from Minneapolis to Detroit. And this person sabotaged my interview, by the way. And she for 10 minutes vented because the work was being moved from Minneapolis to Detroit. For 10 minutes. She didn't even interview me. Then they proceeded to make sure they hired unqualified people to try to sabotage the work after the fact. So listen to people, pay attention to them. And I do recommend the book, 60 Seconds and You're Hired. You'll see a ton of questions in that book. Phenomenal book. Check that book out. You'll find some questions, go through them, see what you find that's relevant. You'll find a lot of things that you can pull from. That's it.
Nick, something to add?
Yeah, just keep an eye on the amount of airtime that you versus them have. Because there have been interviews that I've been in where, as like Darren is saying, that's what made me think of it, which you're like, you're 20, 30 minutes in, you're like, all right, you've told me the background of the company, you've told me your background, you've told me everything else. Like, when do you get to interview me? When does the peacocking and all the showboating stop? And like after half an hour of a 45 or an hour long interview, that's wrong. And that to me tells me
they're selling too hard.
Like, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I agree with both of you. And I know that we're interviewing at the company where I'm working now, and I'm making sure to answer everybody's questions completely honestly. They're asking me, what's the maturity of the company? And I'm saying pretty low in spots, but I've been hired to specifically improve that.
Yep.
So this is a transition period. There are going to be teams that appreciate and understand your work less than other teams. And, just please know that this is a work in progress and it's changing. And so I'm taking that approach that it doesn't make sense to answer anything but the truth, because the reality is that if you lie to people and then they come and work there, they're going to see your low maturity place.
Yep.
They're going to see the conflicts between UX and product and engineering. They're going to see that your crappy KPIs are blah, blah, blah. So I don't believe in blowing smoke. I don't believe in trying to do a sales pitch. I just tell people, look, this is a good place to work because of this. This is some of the stuff that we are working on changing right now. But good news, I'm here to change it. That's my entire job. It's my responsibility to change it. So that I have the authority to change it, and we're working on changing it. But hey, you are going to run into some stuff that isn't going the way it should be. But we've only got a few more minutes with Darren, so let's focus on him a little bit, everybody. Unfortunately, this is going to be Darren's last show with us for a little while. I'm hoping we'll have him back in May for a show. I know, this one hurts. This one hurts. I didn't queue up a song, so I'm sorry I don't have like a goodbye song ready to go. But so Darren will not be part of the monthly Office Hours Ask Us Anything after this one. He's going to be focusing on his new job. But we will have him back for some shows here and there. Oh, now look at Ray. Look what you did. Look what you did. I blame you. I blame you, Scarecrow. Thanks. Now you've got Ray traumatized. She's never going to recover. Darren,
I'm still around.
We're going to miss you, and I know we'll have you on a future show, but just not regularly every month. Dr. Nick will be here. Nobody panic and cry. We're going to keep him. We'll have some floating different guests. We've got Sophie Fryermuth lined up for next month's Office Hours Ask Me Anything, and I'm working on a couple of other people, possibly Dr. Giles, and just having some different people come in, maybe Larry, maybe who knows. So we'll have some floating guests because Darren's irreplaceable. Darren, few words from you.
No, just glad to have had the opportunity to have an absolute blast. I am hoping that my absence won't be for long. When I told my boss that I was doing sort of a farewell show today, she was sad.
She's a fan of the
show? She's like, "Aw." So I'm thinking that it may be, I think that part of this has to do with the fact that this is my 4th week in my new role. It's a management role. I've got 4 reports for starters. I've got a ton of meetings that I go to. And Ray, it's not death by meeting. I don't call it death by meeting. And I call it drinking from a fire hose, but the fire hose is controlled. And I don't think I've ever described that way at all. So I'm hoping that once I settle in, and I'm not the only new person that's on my team. I have one person that's relatively new, one person that started a week after me that's reporting to me. Once we can get the dust settles and we have our cadence and our projects nailed down in such a way, I'm more of a manager that only works when I need to, but I'm doing a lot of directing of traffic and make sure everybody is supported. Then once that happens, I think that hey Elliot, I think that I'll be able to. I think my boss is supporting me. My boss is supporting me coming and being on the show on a regular basis, but I need to go and make the donuts and make sure the donuts are good before I can come back and be here on a regular basis. So I appreciate that. I appreciate the time. Thanks to Debbie for having me. Thanks to Dr. Nick. I love the dynamic. We have a ball doing this, and this is good for the UX community, in spite of the fact that somebody called us a pack of wild dogs for absolutely no reason. We are not a pack of wild dogs, and there's a ton of evidence on YouTube that proves we are not a pack of wild dogs. It's a shame that person said that. It's a shame that other people believe it. So, but I'm around. I'm still on LinkedIn.
My pack of dogs are a bunch of freaking geniuses who make things happen.
Yeah,
so
I've got
a pack of dogs, and they're making it happen. So go ahead, call me any of these. They're great at what they do. So but Darren, I know you got to run. Yes, find Darren, everybody.
1 minute. I'm still on LinkedIn. We're still doing the UX Chit Chat Hour because I own that. So I got to be there. The podcast is still going strong. We're not missing a beat with any of that. I'm still popping up at different talks. I'll be back. I believe it's mid-April or May. May that we're going to do the education.
May you're going to talk about judging education. And of course, if you want to come back to this show, I'm sure we can find a slot for you.
Yep. I will be. My boss is actually making the way for me to be able to do it. She loves my engagement in the community. I'm glad to have a boss that supports that. And but for right now, I got to make sure that we got the bed made over here and things are solid. Of course,
you've got to focus on your new job, and I'm so excited and proud that you're finally a manager, because people watching our show know that 3 of us were bitching about not being managers, and now 2 of us are in leadership, and we're just waiting for Dr. Nick to find his spot.
Yes.
I need to start interviewing before that happens. Darren, it's been an absolute pleasure. I hope to see you very soon.
Oh yeah. Hey, you'll probably see me on LinkedIn later today.
All right. Well, Darren,
Yep.
thank you eternally for the fun and the advice. And I know
yes.
we'll see you again here soon. Nick and I are going to continue answering the rest of the questions. Thank you, Darren.
Right. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye. Aw, it hurts a little. Yeah. Yeah. 2 Musketeers.
But he's on doing good things, doing, preaching the good, doing the good work.
That's right. Like we've put the toddler on the bus to school for the very first time, and
No, you know what? It must be great to be on Darren's team.
Yeah. He's lucky. They're lucky. It's going to be a beautiful thing. And poor Ray is traumatized. All right. I'm going to put up some more questions. We've got some more questions. Nick, spotlight on you. It's over my face. So that's good. Because I've put on a little weight. So no one can see that now. How should research teams fit in Agile on a day-to-day basis? It feels like we're excluded from the day-to-day in a way. Thanks for answering. Nick, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is the standard dual and tri-track answer, which is basically standard Agile as the world knows it doesn't really it's more for engineering. It doesn't really handle design and design and research well or at all. As a result of that, dual or tri-track is what works. Well, I've worked dual track and it works very well. Dual track is development track here and a UX track, or that runs a sprint or two ahead of the engineering track. But the point is that you're laying the track for the engineering train that comes behind it. So you're working in your own sprint cycles and they're working their own sprint cycles. It means that you can do the research and the design and then kick out a validated ticket, that's ready to build. And that's how it works the best. And that's the only way it works. Maybe Debbie's got other ways.
Yeah, I definitely vote for Tri-Track Agile, and episode 116 is about this. And so if you want a lot more detail on this, episode 116 is from last year, and I've already updated my slides, and I've got some new ideas, but episode 116 is not a bad one to watch. So again, go to YouTube, Delta CX116, it'll come right up. And if you need something to show your engineers, I've got last year's version of the talk Nick saw me do last week. It's called Improving Agility by Using Customers' Definitions of Quality and Done. It is on the YouTube channel. It's the 45-minute version. So just go to YouTube and write Delta CX Improving Agility. That will come up. The target audience for that one is not UX. The target audience is more engineering. So show that to your engineering counterparts, and it explains. You watch it first, see how you feel about it, but that's probably the way to go. E says episode 116. Yes, E, you are correct. Episode 116, and everybody drink when I say episode 116. So there's that. And I'm glad Darren is not here for the next question.
Why would it trigger him?
Yes. Can you please differentiate UX UI? Because many people are taking AC to their knowledge and research. AC? Do you know what that person means?
No.
Taking AC to knowledge and research. But let's answer the first part of the question.
Yeah. Okay. Oh God, how do I do this quickly without ranting? UX UI.
Ranting aloud.
Is UX UI from my perspective, and I think possibly Debbie's and Darren's, almost probably any real UXs. UX UI isn't actually a thing. Okay, it doesn't exist. I mean, it does exist. People call themselves UX UI, but ask yourself, the question you're asking, how does UX UI differentiate itself from either visual design or interaction design? And the point is, oh gosh, where did that come from?
That was on my car in 2011 when it meant something.
Oh, wow.
Remember when it meant something?
You invented it then.
Well, not exactly.
Because I don't think in 2011, I mean, UX UI wasn't a thing. It didn't exist. There was UX and there was UI, and that's what you had on your plate. Okay, so what's happened is question asker, is that when UX started to get big and interesting around 2015, 2016, the design world said, hey, wow, you guys are doing designery stuff and it's really creative. Well, we should be doing that, not you. And they basically kidnapped UX. those people who wanted to join the profession called themselves UX UI people, right? Because there were UI people beforehand, and all they did was slap the trendy word UX on it. It's like adding any or crypto to something. It's like the cool term of the day, right? And at the time, you got to remember, people were like UX copywriters, UX project managers, just ridiculousness. It was just add UX to everything to make it cool and current. And that was bollocks. But UX UI is still here today, and it's still a thing. And if you ask people in UX UI, how are they any different to an interaction designer or a visual designer, they can't tell you either, right? The best answer I've heard from a UX UI person, who is an amazing designer, by the way. I think they do themselves a huge disservice as a UX UI person, an amazing visual designer and illustrator, classically trained, all that good stuff. She said, what differentiates us from those guys is that we use user research. And I was like, okay. I mean, if you're working with user researcher, I can go with that. And then you're kind of synonymous with a UX designer at that point, right? So I can't give you a really clean answer because there just isn't one. UX UI needs to die in a fire badly, and we need there's nothing wrong with being an awesome visual designer, okay? I mean, the way that UX is going, I personally think visual design is a better practice. Nothing wrong with being an interaction designer either. And why can't you be one of those? Why can't you fit into the existing studio structure or the existing role structure? UX UI means nothing. And I think that all the maturity that Debbie is talking about is literally held back, is with it, the longer UX UI is even a thing in your place of work, the longer it will be before you get towards real UX. Unless it's a synonym for UX design. Do you see what I mean? Sorry. Not
yeah. Easy. And I would say UX UI at this point is most synonymous with product design, because now UX UI is going out of style. We're calling it product design. And basically the way that I see it is originally UX was the information architecture, interaction design done with science and technique and cognitive psychology and things like that. And the UI design originally, when I got this plate, because everyone knows I'm not an artist, so there would have been no reason for me to get a plate saying I do visual design. When I was in California in 2011, and of course I took this plate off in 2017, as you can see, matching up with Nick's story, UI at the time was really used as a synonym for that. That the user interface designer was not seen as a visual designer in 2011, 2012. That person was that was really synonymous with UX. So it was like, oh yes, I do UX design, I do user interface design. It was a synonym at the time. And what happened was, as Nick said, in that 2015-16 neighborhood, there were so many more jobs that needed UX designers than there were UX designers. A lot of people were telling graphic designers and visual designers and people more on the art and visual side, add UX to what you do. Call yourself UX and UI, and you're going to just make a lot more money. You don't have to do anything different than you're doing today. You're already doing this. Yeah, you're gonna double your salary. You're gonna make more money. You're gonna get a great job, because everyone wants a UX designer, but nobody wants a graphic designer or visual designer. Just call yourself UX UI, and that's really what happened. And it felt like overnight in California, where I was, that all of a sudden there were all these people who just said, I'm a UX UI designer. And I was like, that's weird. You went to art school and you don't know any of the things that I know about psychology and behavior. And they're like, no, I'm doing that. And so what I found was, and then I started calling myself a product designer, because I figured, well, I design digital products. And then they grabbed that term too. And now product designer is, so I find that UX UI, UI UX, and product design typically, but not always, mean a visual or graphic or brand designer who likes to wireframe, but is not necessarily following any of the UX processes, any of the UX best practices. They may or may not be working from research, as Nick pointed out. They may not be testing their ideas. They're kind of sometimes they're the old web designers, that they're just making pages and screens and things, but they might not have that the some of the education and approaches to back it. So so it's not a hill that I want to die on. Darren is dying on that hill currently. If someone says UX UI or UI UX to me or any of these things to me, my approach has just been, that's an old term that we're not using anymore.
Yeah.
I just make it sound like, what, the terms have changed. And, by the way, that's an old term that we used, 7 years ago. If you mean UX design, we say UX design. And if you mean visual or brand or graphic design, say visual or brand design, and so I'm just trying to go there. Nick.
There's a really important distinction here, actually. It literally just occurred to me, and that's in process. And this is actually very, very fundamental. Because if people are working in high fidelity and they're all Figma and all of that, it tells you an awful lot. There isn't that research going on, probably not in the department, because you're not rapidly iterating and you're not testing Figma prototypes. You can't test them.
You can't test them.
So it tells you that's the problem. It's by applying that design thinking, and I mean real design thinking, not that, applying that design philosophy of way of looking at the world. It doesn't work in our world. So UX UI, yeah, Debbie nailed it. We don't talk about that anymore because the world has moved on.
I don't need that plate anymore. But I will say I got a lot of rounds of applause on the highways between San Francisco and San Jose. People would drive by my car and be like, so yeah. There were many UX people on the highways back in the day. Okay, next question. Without feeling like you're on a soapbox, how do you prevent bad research, such as confirmation bias and leading questions?
Okay, firstly, into the last question, by the way, anyone watching, I've got a video on YouTube that's called an introduction to UX psychology that tells the story of UX UI visually, easily. It's a good watch, half an hour. I recommend you go watch it. It's one of my better pieces of work. With regards to bad research, it's a good question, but it's easily solved by having a user researcher doing the work.
Right.
There's a lot of very bad user researchers out there, and let's be really honest. There's a lot of self-taught people who just keep getting gigs, and they don't know that they're not competent because they keep getting paid. So there's a lot of that stuff going on. It tends to happen in the UK more government side than in the wild. I should also say that. I can't get any more controversial than that. How do you prevent bad research such as confirmation bias? Are we talking about in myself or in team members, colleagues, other people? Because if it's how do I prevent it on my own? It's just experience, and even then, I'm fallible. I'm a human being. I lead the witness. That's why they are biases. Being aware of them and training yourself to not do them is most of the battle. It comes through practice, watching your videos back and watching the mistakes that you make and being cognizant of that the next time. And once you do that enough, it becomes kind of muscle memory and just part of the gig. I don't make newbie errors so much anymore because I've just done it a ton. But that's not to say I don't mess up. I do. Everyone does. Stuff happens, but you learn that back. User research is a tough field. It's important to be hard on yourself, but it's also important to not be hard on yourself because you've got to get that Goldilocks point, and no one can tell you where it is, and it's not defined. So, yeah, it's about can you replicate? Can you get valid? Can you get reliable insight?
Yeah, and the person who asked it, disregard the Russian porn spam, everybody, but the person who asked it said, I'm the lone user researcher, so I need help from my team. My team isn't always aware of these downfalls. And again, I would rather you be the lone user research and not have the team doing research, because I think this is what it leads to. It leads to you having to mind the kindergarten and try to teach them. It's amazing how many people think that it's worth the time of someone in UX to try to teach other people to do research, check in on their work, fix their mistakes. I think that takes more time and is more of a burden. And then once you've done that, how are you ever going to prove that you needed to hire a specialist? How are you ever going to get headcount ever again? Because now you've taught everybody the product manager can help me do the research. Well, then you obviously don't need any of those UX research specialists out there. So I would probably say to somebody, I would quit while you're behind, and I would say, I thought it was going to help me to have some of these other people doing research, but the research that they're doing is poor, it's flawed, it's setting us up for failure. I thought it was going to save time. It's burning more time because I have to look in on it and deal with the problems from it. Can we please just hire another researcher? And I think you have to go to a manager and you have to say that, because you're not going to be able to, a lot of people take 2 or 3 years to get good at research. You don't have 2 or 3 years. And these people are not even going to make a career in UX. So why are we raising them up when we could be raising up a junior who is going to be making a career in UX? So I would say, please, please stop teaching our coworkers to do research and then being surprised that it's bad. It's bad. Episode 115 goes into this. I have 2 slides doing the math on how the amount of time that our teammates are taking away from their jobs based on what they're probably paid, the amount of time you're taking to try to deal with this stuff, and what it probably costs in the mistakes they're making. You could just hire UX researchers. You could just, instead of having two product managers devoting 10% of their time to this, just hire full-time researchers, even junior or mid-levels. If you're training people, go train the people who want to work in our industry. Please stop training these other people, especially when you see it's not working. I don't have an easy answer for like, oh yeah, here's how you help someone who knows nothing about what we're doing to suddenly become good at what we're doing. This is why it's specialized. So I'm sorry, but I'm never going to support us teaching other people to do our work while I'm watching all of these juniors not get a job.
Mm-hmm. And that's the nail on the head, Debbie. The nail on the head is the elephant in the room is that it takes at least 18 months to 2 years to become any level of competent as a user researcher. And people don't want to hear that, and they don't want to start on that path. And some people do stop on that path, and they get distracted by other shinier things, you know what I mean? More trendier, cool things. The people that you see who are senior user researchers in the world today are really good people, really worthwhile. That's where you want to get, that's who you need to learn from. And that's who, you know what I'm saying? Seek out the experience, because it's an experience transfer that we're after.
Yeah, exactly. Because right now we have a shortage of seniors, and I am watching people have 10 interviews in a week because everybody wants a senior and a lead and someone with 5 or more years of experience. And the reason why they're so in demand now is because we've spent the last 5 years training product managers to do research. And now we don't have the people who were juniors 5 years ago, never existed. Now we don't have seniors. The people who are seniors are being paid ridiculous money and they're in demand, and we don't have enough of them. So please inspire your company to bring in juniors. And if you're going to train and mentor and oversee anybody, please let it be them. Mix Betty, I hope you found, it's great to see you. I hope that you found Nick's channel. I think it's called UX Psychology on YouTube, right? UX Psychology?
That's the one. Look up UX Psychology. If you use the keywords an introduction to UX Psychology or put anything to do with UX Psychology in my name, you'll get there.
Super. Now, this is our last question, but we still have some more time to the show. So if people do have questions, we have time for a few more if Nick can say the full block. This says, product management leadership is essentially taking away the strategic part of design and handing it over to product managers. This is a new pattern threatening all of us, and with UX reporting to product management in many companies, we are now considered second-level citizens in our own teams. And of course, this is not helped by people who are also training them to research and training them to design. Nick?
That's a really great question. Well done.
Yes.
I like that one. And it's original as well. Not that it's not. Anyway, the point, okay. I think this is an attitude thing. And seeing as I'm the one with a shocking attitude, it's kind of ironic that I'm saying it. I think this is an attitude shift thing, okay? And I'm not criticizing you at all. I think this is a we attitude thing. I think this is possibly and potentially a good thing rather than a negative thing, okay? Now, it shouldn't be taking it away, and it shouldn't be us and them. It should be us, like product and UX together, not negotiating, but discussing these things in sprint planning and all, because as a user researcher, or wearing my user research hat that I'm wearing at the moment, taking away the strategy is a great thing. That's one less thing I've got to worry about. I can just keep my eyes on the prize, keep my mind on my users and my show reels and my insight reports. Right, that's the activity I need to do. That's what I do on a daily basis. Not being in meetings is an amazingly good thing for a practitioner. And again, if the PM can take that weight off of me, that's fantastic, because it gives me more time to spend it in Axure or in the field or in the lab or writing up or doing the things that not only I enjoy, but that make me a better practitioner and earn me more money ultimately, that benefit my career. I don't see it as a threat. That's the difference in the attitude shift. I've learned over the past few years, since products become a thing, to become respectfully subservient to my product manager. And I think that's a necessary attitude. That doesn't belittle us. And I think the good product managers see us as expert advisors, if you know what I mean. And that's the way I think it should play out. You can't have too many chiefs and Indians, or whatever a more politically correct analogy is. It gets too imbalanced. So yes, take that from me. It's fine. But all the strategy is here from a user research or design or UX perspective to help inform the product roadmap or the product manager's thinking. We're not second-class citizens, man. If anything else, I would say we are probably elevated to primary citizens, because as leads or seniors or what have you, if that's your thing, in our teams, we're the specialists. We're the experts in what we do. So that doesn't make us a second-class citizen. It just gives us a very specialist, different role to the product manager role, And the same goes for design, content, development, everybody else.
Well, I completely disagree. And that's okay. So, whichever thing makes sense to the audience is what you can go with. I am on the complete opposite other side of this particular issue. Gemma says, I've been struggling for months with product managers who think that asking users, what do you want? And writing a JIRA with their answers is user research, and it's frustrating. Yeah. So a couple of things. Oh, yeah, we definitely understand you, Gemma. You're not alone. So a couple of things about this. I am running a workshop. You can find it at deltacx.link/TTCC-training. It's my Transforming Toward Customer Centricity workshop. I'm hoping some people will check it out. But as for the original question, I hear the original question and I agree with what you're saying. I believe that product management is taking away UX design. They're taking away UX research. They're taking away any sort of design strategy. And I don't think there's anything good about that. I know that there are product management books and courses and training that say you don't really need UX people. UX is just there to take product managers' ideas and check that they're usable, and to improve the usability on them. And I know right now product managers are eating those books up because it's giving them the wet dream that they wanted. They wanted the permission to go and do UX work. And so they've got their Marty Kagans and their Teresa Torreses who say, yep, a product manager should be doing all of these things. And of course, engineering has the same thing. Engineering has Safe Agile and Scrum.org who say, and engineers should be able to do UX work because this is for everybody, and the Agile team should have all of the skills on it, and UX can do Agile, and this can be decentralized. So there's a giant land grab right now from all directions towards UX, which is wild because they don't even really understand what we do, but they still want to do it. And so the issue with that is there's a lot of issues with that. And it's really kind of a Dunning-Kruger adventure in that, can product managers do designs? Sure. Will some of them be good? Maybe. Will some of them be bad? Sure. Can they do research? Maybe. Will some of it be good? Possibly. Will some of it be bad? Definitely. And so, to me, it reminds me of the old Saturday Night Live sketch, Toonsis the cat, who would drive a car and then at the end of the sketch, drive the family off of a cliff. And the catchphrase was, Toonsis can drive, just not very well. And so, sure, a product manager can design or can research, but we're not guaranteed that that's done well or right. Disregard the Russian porn spam showing up on the screen. Thank you. I guess Pierre Mario's not watching. Otherwise, he has the power to. There's 2 Russian porn spammers posting links. Yeah, can you take those down? Thanks. They're still going to be on my screen, but we're going to take them out of the chat. Make sure you hide the user and not just the link. Thanks. Oh, I-10, I think you have the power to take down Russian porn spam also, so feel free to do that. Just click on the 3 dots next to their post, hide the user. So what do we do
Debbie,
about this? Yeah.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, there's a huge difference with all these people consuming things that they want to hear, and there's a lot of people selling things that they know people want to hear, but it's not what they need to hear or is what is going to deliver them the product. And I think if you fast forward 2 years from now or another few years, you will see the comeback, the consequences of DIY UX.
Well,
right?
that's the
People
thing.
will start to understand the value.
Well, that's the thing. I tell people to look for those consequences. When I do all of my slides, and some of you saw it in episode 115 or 116, I talk about calculating the costs of poor quality, which is Googleable. It's a Lean Six Sigma thing. But the problem is that in most cases, I find that people are sweeping those under the rug because they assume that their research was good, and so they assume that they're building the right thing. And then I find that they are manipulating the numbers that come next. It's been very rare that I've found, I'm sure it exists, but it's been very rare where people go, oh, wow, look at this. These numbers didn't turn out well. We must have messed this project up somewhere along the line. What usually ends up happening is the company says, you know what? We know that this is just good enough. It's okay. Let's just put it out and we'll fix it later. So there's no sense of accountability and there's no sense of quality. It's really just, we did a thing, check UX off the box, tick the box that said UX, and maybe it's not great, but it's good enough and we'll fix it later. And I think that once companies adopt a culture of such mediocrity, where we're not checking in on that quality, and we assume we're going to have to fix it later because we assume it's full of mistakes and garbage, then, what are we doing here? What are we doing? And this is where my episode 116 comes in. This is where my new Transforming Toward Customer Centricity training comes in. Which I made very affordable, everybody. It's nearly free. So what can this person do? It's very hard because there's a big land grab towards UX right now. And the problem is that it's going to be hard to change this. I'm working on it at my own job right now, and I'm trying to advise other people on it. But the problem is that all these product managers went for the training and read the book that said you can do UX design. It's so easy. And in fact, over on our Slack channel, which I know some of you want to join, I'll put up the link. Some people have been copying and pasting, have been screenshotting things they're finding in training that say like, UX design is so easy, anybody can do it. People think it's hard, but once you get in the right mindset, it's really easy, and anybody can do UX research. And this is the training that's out there right now, and that's why I'm fighting so hard against our entire job and profession going extinct. I-10 says, that's why it's always nice when management gets UX, when they can differentiate bullshit research from quality research and hold people accountable. Yeah, I'm not seeing a lot of that. Nick, where'd you go?
I needed nicotine really badly. I'm sorry.
I feel like I'm in caught smoking around the bike sheds. That's when, no, they can different. You know what? In truth, management, or the higher up you go up in management, they don't really, they'll consume whatever you put in front of them, to be fair, whether it's completely batshit crazy or invalid or actually means something and is real. That's it. But if you do have management like that, fantastic, absolutely brilliant, and that should help you achieve a lot more because you'll have like executive level support.
Yeah, so my answer for this is really long. You'll find a lot of it in episode 115 and 116. I have the new versions of it in the Transforming Toward Customer Centricity content, and I'm going to be putting out more of that probably in the summer. Joel says, Nick blowing smoke out of the side of his mouth with a smile and innocent eyes is comedy gold.
Gotta earn $1 somehow. Hi, Joel.
There you go. And so, so to the person who asked the original question, remember, you didn't break it and you might not be able to fix it. Please don't let it affect your mental health. This is the original question I'm putting back up. And of course, if you don't have a manager in UX, if you have a manager in product management, then that's tough. You don't have that advocate. I always tell companies that UX has to have a UX manager so that there is an advocate, that there's someone to escalate things to. And when our managers are engineers and marketers and product managers, we don't have that advocate. So you probably don't even have a manager that you can go to and say, you hired me as a specialist. You interviewed me for hours and days. You tried to make sure I knew what I was doing, and now you have all these other people doing this. So I've got a new slide on this. I'm going to open up the new slide I'm working on about this while Nick adds anything he wants to say here.
So I can't say where, I was at a major management consultancy at a pharmaceutical company as a coach and mentor. They were doing all the things that Debbie is talking about, all the cliches of bad things, design thinking. They were Googling UX stuff, all of that, teaching product folk to do their own research. The problem with it was, and in theory, it made loads of sense, but in practice, people tried to do their own research. They didn't get any meaningful support, and it fizzles out very quickly. So whilst the intentions were good, people weren't supported enough in this new thing called user research. And that's, again, why mentorship or having somebody to support you on your learning journey is so critically important. Ideally, that's a lead or somebody in your business. Sorry, Deb.
No, I'm sorry. I'm not looking at the screen, so I didn't know you were done. I didn't know you weren't done. I'm trying to find the new slide I was just making over the weekend, and where did it go? Oh, here it is.
I also want to say there's some really great product managers out there. We need to give a balanced view. I've worked with some fantastic product managers who have read the Marty Kagan and the Tisha Torres and all of that stuff. And they totally 100% get it. They get UX. They know it's not their thing. They ask the right questions. They incorporate the strategy. I'm involved in roadmap stuff. It's been brilliant. I mean, it's definitely the minority of cases, but they totally exist. And it isn't the case that every product manager is some kind of, you know what I mean, warlord who just wants to own everything and do it all themselves. That is often the case, but not always.
Okay, this is my new slide. Here it is. So, who should do UX tasks? Your research, your design.
Take the question down.
Take the question down.
So that it doesn't obscure. Oh, can you do that? Your overlay.
How's that?
There you go.
Okay.
Bingo.
People who qualify for a full-time UX job. If you wouldn't qualify for a UX job at our company, you shouldn't be doing our work. You interviewed me for hours and days. You asked me to show my work, prove my knowledge. So if that is the standard to get a job at this company, that is the standard that we hold everyone else to. I'm going to hold a product manager to that standard. I'm going to hold an engineer to that standard. I'm going to hold a marketer, business analyst, anybody. I'm going to hold them to that standard. So if they don't qualify for even a junior level job at our company, I don't want them doing UX work, and I don't want to teach them UX work. I want to bring in the people who are going to be in our department. And that leads me to the second thing on the screen. Who does UX work? People who work full-time under UX management and under UX standards. So if a product manager thinks they want to start doing UX work, you can completely transfer over to the UX department and work under UX management and under UX standards. And if UX isn't your career, you probably shouldn't be doing our work. It's harder for the person who asked the question because there's a blurred line there because product management is managing UX. So you might feel like, well, I am being managed by your people. But I would still say to everybody, I'm saying, if someone does not qualify for a UX job, I don't want them doing our work. That's it, because that's the standard we created. We put out a job description. We interviewed people. We checked who fit these standards and who doesn't. We checked for a certain level of skill and proficiency. If these were our standards, why aren't we holding our own coworkers to these standards?
That's amazing. That's brilliant, Debbie. Really
Thanks.
brilliant.
Oh, thank you. You're very sweet after your nicotine. Too Long Couldn't Read, who thank you for supporting our channel, says, as a junior to mid-level researcher, it's so hard to get better at research when you're fighting for basic stuff and no one to learn from. I need to hire a mentor, probably Debbie, LOL. Yes, you certainly can if you'd like. And let's see, Listen to Him Speak says, how do you find good mentors in this field? Nick, let's treat that as a real question.
I don't know. I mean,
How to find good
simply, I
mentors?
don't know.
Don't know.
I really don't. I mean, I think LinkedIn is probably a good place, and I think you want to go from personal recommendation. I think anything else is going to be self-generated and then very questionable. That's because everybody claims to be an expert, but there are so few. And if you really want somebody who's a really safe, you know what I mean, a safe mentor who's going to teach you good stuff, as I say that, do you know how many really bad fake seniors there are out there perpetuating some really terrible things, and people don't know how badly they've been taught until a couple of years later when they say something in a presentation and they're really embarrassed in front of a room of people, or it's really not okay. It's really bad.
I know.
Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, so my suggestion on how to find mentors is go to the people you trust. These could be higher level people at your company. They could be authors you like. They could be someone who wrote an article that really helped you out. It could be someone who posts on LinkedIn that you really like. It could be Joel. It could be, I think you just have to go where your gut says go. And I tell people, go ahead and ask. I probably get at least one email a week that says, hello, I really like what you're doing. Can you please mentor me? And I have to say, unfortunately, I'm not taking on any more free mentors right now. I do offer paid coaching. If paid coaching is in your budget, sign on up. I do offer everybody, obviously, office hours is free. You can come here and ask your questions. But if we're going to be looking at your work, you're going to need mentoring or coaching time. I'm not offering that for free right now. Some people are. Find them. Now, some people say, I'll just go to ADP list and get a free mentor. You can, but make sure you're looking that person up on LinkedIn, because very often the ADP list mentors are not fully qualified. And there are great people who ADP list rejected. So ADP list, I hear more negative things about than positive. I hear that people are cheerleading people, but not really giving them the real feedback they need. And there's some tough stuff there. So Joel says, yep, come find me. Happy to help mentor and put you in the right direction. Yeah, look for Joel on LinkedIn. Too Long says, I don't know how to say this, but knowing more about UX as a whole to be able to identify grifters versus real mentors helps. Yeah, of course. It's very hard when you're just starting out to figure out who's lying to you and who's good at this and who isn't. I-10 is very sweet, saying I'd recommend Debbie and Stephanie Walter for coaching, worth every penny. You can find some good professors on ADP too, but you need to be super picky. Joel says, I applied 4 times to ADP list and I was rejected for not having enough experience. Joel, you have how many years in UX now? E says, this channel is a good place to start. Follow the people who speak here on LinkedIn. You could have a lot of people who could potentially be your mentor. Yeah, for sure. And remember, we also have a Slack community. We have about 200 active people at any given time. You'll find a link to join it. It's completely free. I'm not doing the walled garden membership thing. deltacx.com/links. You can find that there. And then we had another question. Pressing the wrong buttons. Listen to Him Speak said, what do you think about learning experience design, a blend between instructional design and UX UI design? I'm sorry, Darren isn't here to tell you that is not factually correct. Because Darren does have a background in instructional design. And Nick, do you have any thoughts on this before I jump on it?
No, that is such a Darren question for all the reasons you just said.
This would be a better Darren question, but as you can see, he had to leave early and go to a meeting, so I'm sorry about that. So from what I understand, and I've been on some learning experience and instructional design podcasts, we did do an instructional design show with Tatawan last year. Darren is here. Hey, I've been doing LX work for a decade. May have actually coined the acronym. Darren, and people are putting up your Imhotep thing. Darren, I can't believe you're here. You're supposed to be in a meeting. You are so bad. Darren,
man.
what do you say to this person who says learning experience design is a blend between instructional design and UX design? Because I'm going to say no. I think of learning experience design as instructional design. Darren says, I can't listen, but I can see the questions. Yeah, we know you can. So, yeah. I think that learning experience design mostly is instructional design. I know that some people in LX and ID are saying UX UI, they're saying design thinking, but I think a lot of them don't really understand what that means. And I think a lot of them think they are UX designers. In fact, I got a big fight with one about a year and a half or two ago because I was on his podcast. And then next thing you know, after I'm on his podcast, he's hanging out a thing on LinkedIn that says, I'm open to work. I offer UX services. And I wrote to him privately and I said, you don't know shit about UX. You're an instructional designer. You have no UX background at all. And he was like, no, I know more about it than you. And you have a degree in music. Maybe you're the one who doesn't know anything about UX. And I was like, oh, I always know when somebody pulls out my degree in music that they are just so desperate to go on the personal attack. And I was like, you're being a charlatan. You're going to offer people UX services when you have no UX education or experience? That's bad.
No, but that's standard. That's standard.
And then I blocked him.
There was a designer that I was working with who was selling UX UI courses on LinkedIn. He has got no UX experience whatsoever. There's no, Debbie, here's an idea for you. I wanted to do it, but I'm never going to get the time to do it.
That's so cute that you think I have time.
Oh, sorry. Well,
no, go ahead. Tell me. I'll write it down and I'll make time.
You produce more content than me, a lot more content than me. So if you look on YouTube right now, when I opened up YouTube the other day, I must have clicked on a UX link at some point because it suggested to me something like how to get into UX UI or one of those, one of those.
Sure.
So I was like, fuck it. I'll follow it up. I followed it up. For the few minutes I scanned across, it was car crash the whole way. I went to LinkedIn. I looked up the person. They'd got 2 years of UX experience way back. The point being is, well, the idea for you, Debbie, is to review the top 5 most or top 3 most viewed videos and fact check them or pull them apart, basically. Because if you can expose the fact that I don't know if I could do it to say Joe blogs there, this is them on LinkedIn, this is their limited experience. You put it together.
Yeah, we actually do that on the Friday show. So my Friday show used to be called The Reaction Stream, and now it's called Practicing Critical Thinking. And people send to me, they send tweets, they send articles, they send YouTube videos, and they say, what do you think of this? And very often it's somebody with the get into UX quickly thing, or sometimes it's a video like UX is going extinct. We don't need it. We just need UI designers and, all that garbage. So we do that on the Friday show, but I typically don't watch the video along and comment on it because I could get a copy strike from YouTube, and because it could be a copyright claim against me and it could hurt my account. So what I typically do is I watch the video ahead of time and I put up the video and I say, here's what this person said. And so, because obviously when most people do reaction videos, they love whatever it is. They love it. Oh, this singer is amazing. Oh, this song is so cool. You rarely see a reaction video where someone goes, wow, this is total bullshit. This person's a dick,
Yeah.
And so what happens is people don't put a copy strike on the reaction videos because the reaction videos feed the algorithm, Now you've learned about this this singer and this band, and this person got the views for the reaction stream. And so, or reaction video. So that's a nice symbiotic or parasitic thing. But if I come on and I go, now we're going to watch a Jared Spool talk together, you know, he might not want that up there, and he could go to YouTube and say, hey, she's infringing my copyright because she's going to make ad money and she's going to get all this attention from running my video and talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
So that is the main reason why I don't run other people's videos and do a live reaction, because I'll probably disagree with them. And if they get wind that I've done it, they can put in a claim against me on YouTube and it can hurt my account.
But that's all good. But you can see why there is so much, not just UX, but misinformation in the world if you're not allowed to call it out.
Yes, and in fact, YouTube surveys me what feels like weekly, and every time they ask me, like, do you feel that we care about you as a creator? I always say, you know, strongly disagree. And then I always get like a text area box for like, why? And I always tell them the same thing. I say, you are promoting the charlatans in my industry. The charlatans in my industry have way more views. They do have more subscribers, possibly bought, possibly organic, but you are promoting the charlatans. And I've noticed that when people look at my videos, you're not suggesting the charlatans. And when people look at charlatans' videos, you're not suggesting mine. You are just putting people in the echo chamber of YouTube algorithm is smart enough to know what I'm talking about, and they know it's different from that. And so I am not a recommended video when you've just watched why you should run a design sprint and why you don't need why you don't need a human brain in your head to work in UX and whatever clickbait, you know, they're working on this time around. And so I found that YouTube understands that these are totally different. And so every time they survey me, I try to tell them this, but I think they either don't get it or they don't care. And then many of the creators that I watch are often complaining on their videos about the YouTube algorithm and how there are I mean, I watch one woman who does little cooking shows and, oh, thanks, listen to him speak. I watch one woman who does cooking shows and she spends a lot of time debunking dangerous hacks that people put up on YouTube, like, hey, if you want to do this, just, you know, microwave bleach, you know, or, you know, whatever it is. And it's always something completely unscientific, completely dangerous. People have been hurt copying these hacks, and YouTube doesn't take them down because they act like, you know, they just act like, well, buyer beware. You know, if you want to
it's the same thing that Facebook are doing and have been doing for years. And why, as much as I hate to say it, government regulation is needed. I know we're going way off track here, but the point is that misinformation is profitable. And that's what the center of that's wrong with our universe today.
Yeah, totally agree. And that's the hard part about YouTube. And to me, I think a better streaming platform is Twitch. I would, in some ways, I would rather be doing these shows on Twitch, but the problem is because it's set up for streaming and live interaction and getting people excited about being live in a show. The problem is it doesn't really have archiving set up. And so here I have 500 hours of videos, can't do that on Twitch. But number two, Twitch didn't let me control ads. So what was happening was in the middle of me talking, people were seeing me go up and to the side, and an ad was taking up the screen for a full minute. They were missing a minute of what we were saying, and I couldn't control that. And that made no sense. And they said, well, we think gamers need to take a break. So, you know, just tell people you're going to run a couple of minutes of ads and take a break from your games, and that'll be healthy. And I'm like, no, that's bullshit. And then their terms and conditions say that if you stream on Twitch, you cannot simultaneously stream on any other platforms. So I couldn't be live on Twitch and live on LinkedIn Live and live on YouTube as I do now. And so the problem is that, you know, Twitch just wants this weird exclusive thing, and then they show you these ads that I can't even control, and that made no sense. And so that's why we tried Twitch for a month last year, and the people who were there enjoyed the interactivity and the way it's set up for that. And I've built in a lot of what I learned on Twitch into here, which is why this is as interactive as it is with like all these overlays that I have. They're really Twitch overlays. And so that's the problem, is that YouTube continues to not show this channel to other people. And that's why I keep telling people, 3 people who'd be interested in this channel and these shows. 3 people who want to get into UX or work in UX or have questions or need support. Please, I need you to spread the word and tell people about this channel, because I can't get YouTube to do it. YouTube's not going to show it to the 210,000 people who watched the Just Run a Design Sprint video. So Vanina says 5-minute hack videos are attractive and fun to watch. Well, but the problem is that they're in some cases deceptive and dangerous. And so, this is kind of the long answer of a question we weren't totally asked, but that's kind of what's going on with that. But and Nick, I think that we came to that because you were like, hey, Deb, you should do these videos where you watch these terrible things and you react to them. But my concern is if they report me to YouTube, I could end up with enough strikes on my account where something bad happens.
Yeah. Look, it's all about social media profile these days. It's not about the truth, like this post-truth world. So you see some 3D printing behind me there, right? I'm doing stuff, right? I've had to watch videos to learn how to do this. The bottom line is, and you see this, my daughter tells me this in cooking stuff, when things go wrong, many of these guys don't tell you. They'll cut that bit out. What they want to do is show you the happy path, the happy story, because that's what people want. They want to just see a good, happy story, no BS. And that's not reality, and that's not what works. And this is our world. That's what you see in UX. It's magnified across the board. I don't know how this is going to happen. That's why I'm a militant scientist, because that's the only bullshit detection we have these days.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And that's why I do the Monday Think Out Loud streams, so I can say, hey, if we're starting from here and we're trying to get from here, how do I get there? How do I think out loud? What decisions did I make? How did I approach this project? What am I doing? But yeah, the person that I like, by the way, who I watch, and this is obviously not sponsored on YouTube, is an Australian woman called How to Cook That. And she does a lot of debunking videos. She's nice to watch. Her videos are 15 to 20 minutes. She puts them out once a week. They're very nicely produced. She's been on YouTube like 9 years or some crazy thing. I think she has 4 million subscribers. She does lovely recipes that I'm never going to cook because they've got way too many calories and I need to lose weight. But she does a lot of great debunking because her background is food science. And I recommend it to everybody else, because she's out there calling out the 5-minute crafts and the 5-minute hacks, like, just brush your teeth with super glue. I mean, they literally have these.
Yep. If you guys are interested, there's a talk that I did called The Science of UX at UX Live a couple of years ago. Adding more science and the scientific method, or scientific thinking, shall we say, to digital is where I'm coming from, and that's what I've been fighting to do for a long time. I think it'll all do you all a lot of favors to just get on board the science train. It's never going to do you any harm.
Right.
And I'm not talking about science as in journals and published and outputs. I'm talking about the scientific doctrine, the method of science. Because when you apply that to UX or product or anything for that matter, beautiful, amazing things happen reliably or consistently or validly. Now, the good news is that you will meet product people in the middle because they're all into experimentation and science too. That's trendy in their world. So that's where there can be a meeting of minds and a beautiful kind of rebirth of product and UX on a neutral science island, should we say.
And Joel says it's one of his favorite talks that you've done.
Thanks, Joel. Checks in the post if I had any money.
Very good. So we can probably wrap up. We've been here about 2 hours. Nick, thank you so much for sticking around and, of course, for sticking with the show. I hope we'll be able to have you on our monthly adventures, albeit with some other guest stars. It'd be like the Love Boat. Someone will be like,
I'm
featuring.
A huge Sophie Fryermuth fan.
Oh,
I work
great.
with her
She's going to be our next.
Yep. She's a rock star. She's just nothing but 7 shades of awesome. So she's brilliant. Can't wait.
Yeah, and we're just getting another question in now, but I think you are too late because we are wrapping up the show. So your question is going to have to be the first one next week. And let me give people a quick idea of what's coming up on the show, though you can always find it at deltacx.com/links. Tomorrow is my podcast about, I'll be reading an article I wrote about how Jared Spool is our main gatekeeper. And I would love to open up a conversation with people who may have opinions agreeing or disagreeing. Maybe Spool himself will show up. We know his team watches some of our shows because things I mention I'm working on magically show up as new webinars that he puts out. Amazing. What are the odds? Friday, of course, we'll be doing Critical Thinking stream. You can send stuff in. Let me put up the, where's my link? You just visit, of course, deltacx.com/links, and you can learn how to send something in for Critical Thinking, where I invite the audience to critical think with me. Sunday was going to be monthly networking, but I think I'm going to have to move these off of Sundays. We haven't been getting a good response to Sundays. We'll try another day. Monday, Think Out Loud. Tuesday, office hours will be an hour earlier next Tuesday because I'm speaking at an event. So that's going to be, check your clocks, 5:30 Italy time. Wednesday, the 23rd, I'm going to do a show based on a conversation Stephanie Walter and I had. I'm going to be talking about what if you want to publish stuff? What if you want to publish a book? What if you want to publish articles? What if you want to publish an online course, a Kindle book? What does it take to do this? Can you do it yourself? And what kind of money does it make? And I'm going to be talking about some of the sad and not sad money that I make through some of these different types of things. I-10 says, thanks, Debbie and Nick. I'm going to watch the show from the beginning. I was late. Have a nice evening. You too, I-10. So yeah, and then we're just, let's see, I am definitely working on more stuff to come, but those are some of the things coming through the rest of March. Nick, any closing words and where people can stalk you?
Yeah. Guys, you can always find me on LinkedIn. I'm quite quiet at the moment. Today was my first day on LinkedIn in weeks. I've got massive stuff going on with work, so I just have to stay focused. But try me on LinkedIn. I can't mentor at the moment. I literally don't have the time for you. It would be wrong to set that expectation. So I'm really sorry. At least until June, whilst I'm on this gig, I don't have the time. Have a look on YouTube. Look for me and UX and you'll find stuff. I've done talks for the past 4 or 5 years. If there's anything there that you like or find interesting, let Debbie know, and I'd be more than happy to do like a special for you guys here on Debbie's channel where we can have an interactive bit, talk afterwards, or you can interrupt me whilst I'm doing it, ask questions, whatever works, whatever format works, you know. So pick my brain, you guys, because you guys are the good people.
Thank you for that, Nick. It'd be great to have you doing some of your talks here, and I can moderate and check for some of the questions. And thanks to some names I didn't recognize joining today, and lots of names I did recognize. Great to see everybody joining in. So I'm going to play us out of here. Hi, Kayleen. Hello and goodbye, Kayleen. We're wrapping up. I hope you're having a good day too. And remember, everybody, that some of you changed clocks and I didn't. So please check. Our show tomorrow is 6:30 p.m. Italy time. That might not be when you think it is. We don't change clocks until March 27, so 2022. So Kayleen says, oops. Yeah, sorry, Kayleen. We're just ending the show now because of daylight savings. So everybody be well and be safe. And tomorrow, let's talk about Jared Spool. So have a good day and see everybody soon. Bye.
Have a good one.
Customer centricity as business intelligence. Visit deltacx.com to learn why we are